It begins not with a protest nor a revolution, but with silence. A silence that spreads across the high towers of Shanghai, the mansions of Beijing, and the coastal villas of Shenzhen. The kind of silence that only money can buy, or perhaps the kind that money can no longer protect. For decades, China's rich lived like a separate species, shielded from the struggles of the ordinary people, cocooned in luxury and fed by a system that rewarded loyalty more than innovation. But something has changed. The tide that once lifted them is now pulling them under. The year is 2025, and China's miracle economy is showing cracks that no propaganda can plaster over. Real estate prices have collapsed. Factories are silent. Exports have slowed. The middle class, once the pride of the nation, is suffocating under debt and unemployment. But it isn't the poor or the workers that Beijing fears most now. It's the rich, because when the rich begin to lose faith in the system that made them rich, that's when the real crisis begins. In private meetings across Hong Kong, Singapore, and London, Chinese billionaires whisper what they would never dare say in public. That the party has turned on them. That success itself has become dangerous. That their loyalty, no matter how carefully displayed, no longer guarantees safety. The story of China's rise has always been a story of control. Control over information, control over opportunity, control over people. But money. Money has a way of slipping through fingers, and now it's slipping fast. Over the last few years, the Chinese government has waged an invisible war against its own. Elite. Tech tycoons disappeared. Real estate moguls investigated. Luxury brands restricted, even. Social media influencers silenced for showing too much wealth. The message is clear. No one is untouchable. But here's the twist. This crackdown has created something Beijing never expected. Resentment at the top. And that resentment, quietly spreading among billionaires, entrepreneurs, and second-generation heirs, is far more dangerous than street protests, because revolutions don't always start in the slums. Sometimes, they begin in boardrooms. Imagine a country where the rich no longer invest, not because they can't, but because they won't. Where money leaves in secret, to Singapore, Dubai, or Switzerland, where ambition turns to fear, and where loyalty, once bought, is now impossible to price. This is the new China, powerful on the outside, but fragile on the inside. And at its core lies a simple truth. You can silence criticism, but you can't silence fear. Let's rewind. To understand this coming crisis, we must return to the very beginning, to the unspoken deal that made modern China possible. For years, the Chinese Communist Party and the country's elite shared a simple pact. You stay out of politics. We'll let you get rich. And it worked. Factories multiplied, skyscrapers soared, and the world watched as China lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty. The rich got richer, the party grew stronger, and the balance seemed perfect. Until it wasn't. When Xi Jinping rose to power, he saw something the rest of the world ignored. That wealth, left unchecked, could breed independence. And independence is a threat to control. So began the Great Reshaping. The tech giants were the first to fall. Alibaba, Tencent, Didi, their founders humiliated, their empires broken down, their voices erased. Next came the real estate titans. The men who built entire cities from nothing, now trapped in debt, under investigation or missing altogether. And finally, the cultural icons, the actors, the influencers, the ones who represented aspiration. All silenced, one by one. The message? There is no power in China greater than the party, not fame, not money, not success. But in trying to destroy the independence of the wealthy, the government also destroyed their faith. And that's where the true danger lies. Because when the rich no longer believe in tomorrow, They stop building it. They take their money elsewhere. They take their families elsewhere. And what's left behind is an economy full of buildings but empty of confidence. Right now, Beijing is trying to project strength, parades, speeches, promises of common prosperity. But beneath the surface, the numbers tell a different story. Capital flight has hit record highs. The yuan is under pressure. Foreign investors are leaving, and domestic entrepreneurs are quietly closing their companies. It's not rebellion you can see. It's rebellion you can measure. In money leaving the country, in innovation slowing down, in silence replacing excitement. And as history shows, when money moves faster than control, chaos always follows. The rebellion doesn't look like chaos. It looks like private jets taking off at night. It looks like wire transfers disguised as investments abroad. It looks like luxury apartments in Singapore, citizenships in Malta, and children quietly enrolling in schools across London and New York. This isn't a revolution fought with slogans. It's a revolution fought with exits. Over the past few years, a quiet exodus has begun. The data doesn't lie. China's richest families are moving their wealth faster than at any point in modern history. Some estimates suggest that over $50 billion has been discreetly transferred out of the country this year alone. The banks pretend not to notice, and the government pretends it can stop it. But money always finds a way. Inside China, whispers circulate through private chat groups and elite circles. Encrypted messages, coded words, phrases like Plan B, offshore structure, foreign foundation. These are not the tools of criminals. They are the survival plans of billionaires. The wealthy once believed that loyalty was safety. They sponsored party events, donated to government causes, praised the leadership in interviews. But that loyalty has lost its currency. No one feels safe anymore, and when safety disappears, self-preservation takes over. What makes this moment so dangerous is that Beijing doesn't fully understand the psychology of its own elite. For decades, these people built their fortunes inside a system that rewarded obedience. They didn't challenge authority, they adapted to it. But now, that same obedience is turning into quiet defiance. They won't speak against the system, but they will stop feeding it. Factories that once hired thousands are now operating at half. Capacity companies that once invested in new ventures are freezing projects. Business leaders are attending fewer conferences, signing fewer deals, making fewer promises. To the average citizen, it looks like an economic slowdown, but to those inside the system, it's a strike, a silent protest by the powerful. Meanwhile, ordinary people are starting to feel the consequences. Jobs are harder to find, salaries are stagnant. Young graduates are delivering food instead of working in tech. The dream that once defined modern China, work hard, get rich, live better, is fading. And when a nation loses its dream, it loses its direction. The government's response has been predictable. Control. New rules for tech companies, restrictions on foreign investments, tighter limits on sending money abroad, more surveillance on private business owners. Every week, a new regulation appears, wrapped in the language of stability and national security. But each new rule only deepens the fear. Inside Shanghai, the political heart of Beijing, the leadership faces a paradox. They want economic growth, but they fear the people who can create it. They want innovation, but they distrust the innovators. They need the wealthy, but they can no longer control them with promises. And so, the system is trapped, too rigid to reform, too dependent to let go. It's a slow-motion crisis, the kind that builds quietly until it's too late. Because every yuan that leaves, every entrepreneur that relocates, every factory that pauses production, each one is a cut in the veins of an economy that once seemed unstoppable. Yet what makes this situation explosive is not just the money, it's the mindset. A generation of wealthy Chinese grew up believing they could have it all: power, privilege, and protection. Now they are realizing that in China, no one truly owns anything. Not their wealth, not their property, not even their ideas. Everything belongs to the state, and the state can take it back at any time. That realization is spreading faster than any rumor. One billionaire, once a symbol of China's entrepreneurial spirit, reportedly told a friend, "We built their empire, and now they're dismantling ours." He can't say it publicly, but his actions speak louder than words. His companies are moving offshore. His family no longer lives in Beijing. His Chinese investments frozen? His new ventures? In Singapore, the story repeats itself again and again. Every time a tycoon disappears or is investigated, the wealthy take note. Every time a property developer collapses, the rest quietly sell their assets. Every punishment becomes a warning, and every warning triggers more flight. The irony is almost poetic. The government's attempt to control wealth has only driven it further out of reach. The harder they squeeze, the faster it slips away. Meanwhile, the propaganda machine works overtime. On TV, the news celebrates common prosperity. On social media, influencers praise the new era of equality. But behind closed doors, the mood is bleak. No one wants to talk about investment anymore. Everyone wants to talk about escape. In the luxury malls of Shanghai, the crowds are thinner. In the private clubs of Beijing, the conversations are shorter. Even at charity galas, the smiles are forced. Everyone knows the rules of the game have changed, and no one knows who will fall next. And yet, beneath the fear, something else is emerging. A quiet defiance, a growing belief that the system is not invincible. That power, even in China, has limits. In cities like Shenzhen and Guangzhou, underground networks of entrepreneurs are forming, sharing information, building alliances, looking for ways to protect what they've built. They don't talk about politics, they talk about survival. And survival, in this climate, is its own form of rebellion. Some are turning their businesses into fronts for foreign partnerships. Some are investing in crypto, hiding their wealth in digital shadows the government struggles to trace. Others are buying art, gold or land abroad, anything that can't be easily taken. It's a chess game now, and every move counts. Beijing still believes it holds the board, but what it doesn't see is that the pieces are already moving on their own. This isn't a revolt that will make headlines. Not yet. It's too subtle for that. But beneath the calm surface of modern China, the ground is shifting, and history has taught us, when the people with the most to lose decide they've already lost, that's when they become truly dangerous. It always starts at the top, but it never stays there. When the rich begin to lose faith, the middle class begins to lose hope. And when hope fades, even the most loyal citizens start asking dangerous questions. Across China's cities, a strange quietness has settled in. Coffee shops that once buzzed with talk of startups and stock tips now echo with whispers of caution. Middle-class families, the proud backbone of China's growth, are cutting back on spending. They used to dream of bigger homes and better cars. Now they dream of stability and a way out if things go wrong. The dream of the good life. The idea that hard work and loyalty would always pay off is collapsing under the weight of uncertainty. Graduates from top universities are finding themselves unemployed. Real estate, once a symbol of success, has turned into a burden no one can afford. And the wealthy, once admired, are now envied and resented in equal measure. For years, China's middle class believed that they were part of something unstoppable. They worked tirelessly, invested in property, sent their children to after-school academies, and planned for futures that seemed guaranteed. But when the rich start running, when billionaires disappear, and companies crumble, that illusion of safety vanishes. People begin to ask, if even they aren't safe, what chance do we have? The government knows this fear is dangerous. Fear is harder to control than anger. Anger can be redirected toward foreign powers or toward greedy corporations. But fear Fear spreads silently, infecting every level of society. You can't see it, but you can feel it everywhere. In online chat groups, people speak in code, afraid of saying too much. They don't post complaints, they post questions. What's really happening to the housing market? Why are so many business owners leaving? Why did that influencer suddenly disappear? Questions that sound innocent, but carry the weight of something deeper. Distrust. Beijing's response has been the same as always. Control the narrative. Censor the comments. Delete the posts. Arrest a few people to set an example. But control doesn't rebuild confidence. It only proves how fragile things have become. In 2023, China's youth unemployment hit record highs. In 2024, property defaults spread across major cities. And now, in 2025, the government's biggest fear isn't foreign sanctions or protests. It's apathy. A nation that no longer believes in its own dream. The lying flat movement, young people refusing to chase success, is spreading. Again, some call it laziness, but it's not. It's quiet rebellion. It's the rejection of a promise that no longer feels real. And in that silence, the government hears the sound of control slipping away. But while the middle class retreats inward, the elite continue their quiet war from the shadows. They are funding think tanks overseas, hiring foreign lobbyists, investing in Western media, subtly reshaping the narrative about China's internal stability. To the outside world, these moves look like diversification, but in truth, they are the foundations of escape. Meanwhile, the party doubles down on ideology. New slogans appear across billboards and TV screens. Words like patriotism, national unity, and common destiny. But no slogan can fill an empty wallet. No speech can restore a lost sense of safety. Inside the country, contradictions are everywhere. State TV shows booming construction projects, but the cranes are still. Officials boast about new investments, but factories remain idle. The stock market surges one week, then collapses the next. The numbers don't match the reality, and everyone knows it. In the countryside, resentment grows. Farmers watch as city elites move their money abroad while they struggle to survive. In the cities, workers see billionaires vanishing, their companies collapsing under secret investigations. Everyone blames someone, but no one dares to say who's truly responsible. What's happening in China isn't just an economic slowdown, it's a psychological unraveling, a loss of belief. Because a system built on control can survive many things, inflation, sanctions, even war, but it cannot survive the loss of trust. And that trust is gone. One night, in a quiet neighborhood in Hangzhou, a wealthy businesswoman sits in her apartment, staring at her phone. On the screen, a message from her banker. Your transfer has been delayed. New verification rules. She knows what it means. Her assets are frozen. Her years of loyalty, donations, and public support, all meaningless now. For the first time, she feels powerless. And she isn't alone. These stories repeat themselves. In every major city, people who once built fortunes from nothing now realize they own nothing at all. The rich can't leave. The middle class can't move up. The poor can't survive. It's a perfect trap, one that no one dares to name.